So one of the things that has happened in this year of pandemic is we've seen a lot of people who are married have kids, right? So we know that,
like any normal year.
yeah, but I think that, when you're young and you're married, you're just kind of like, what else are we going to do?
Oh, okay.
Let's have kids.
All right.
But one of the things that I think is even more impressive is there are couples who have been together for a while who have gotten engaged during this time period. And what I would really hope is that they looked at their lives and they said, if you and I can get through this time together without ending in cold-blooded murder, you are my person, right? So there's there's not necessarily a lot of weddings that are planned this year, just because we still don't know the certainty of everything. But there's a lot of weddings that are being planned in the future, right? So my question kind of relates to weddings. I am a horrible gift giver at weddings, and I have a story that I'm going to tell at the end of this. I think you're a really good gift giver at weddings. Do you remember like the first gift you ever bought for somebody? And then as we entered this digital age, have you found that wedding registries are better or worse for somebody like you, who I believe gives good gifts?
First question was, do I remember?
Yeah, like the first. Do you even remember the first wedding you went to by yourself as an adult, just ready to be like footloose and fancy free and have a great time?
I don't know if this was the exact first wedding, but I do know that this was kind of a gift I gave. I'm going to say in my 20s.
Okay.
So there was a Bon Appetit cookbook that I loved.
Interesting.
And I bought that Bon Appetit cookbook. And then I bought, a stand for it so it can be up while you're in the kitchen.
Sure.
Remember, no iPads or anything like that in those days.
Do you remember book stands, everybody?
Book stands. And then I bought a year's subscription to Bon Appetit.
For this couple?
Yeah, so they got the cookbook, they got, the stand, and then they got, like every month for a year, hopefully they thought of me. Do you know what I mean? When I sent them the Bon Appetit magazine.
What year do you think this was?
Oh my gosh. This would have been like late 70s.
Got it.
Yeah.
So giving magazines as gifts to a young couple.
Was that or a fondue pot?
Oh, I mean, fondue pots would be kind of cool now. You missed on that one.
Yeah, well, but that was then.
That's fair. I'm not a good gift giver. And this started when I was younger, because the majority of my friends that got married were typically all back east, right? And for the better part of my life, I've been super poor. And so when I would get invited to weddings, my rationalization was, my gift is
my presents.
My presents.
Yeah. Did you actually share that with anyone?
My present is my presents. I don't know that I had the ego at the time to walk up to somebody and say, hey, congratulations on your wedding. Here I am. But here's what I do know, and this is why I felt okay not giving a present. Yes.
I'm embarrassed.
You should
taught
be.
You better.
Listen,
I taught you better.
You should be embarrassed,
Yeah.
but this is how I rationalized spending money going to an event when I didn't have the money to go to the event, and certainly couldn't just give somebody an item with the money I didn't have.
Right.
So what I rationalized was, if you're going to attend, you need to be the most fun person. And I think anybody who's ever been at a wedding with me will tell you that I'm a reception monster. I love it. First one on the dance floor, last one to leave, most consistent, fist pumping, getting low when they start, playing shout, YMCA, all that good stuff. If I was 22 in 2021, I could easily make a cottage industry out of just employing fun people to attend weddings. And I think I'd be a millionaire overnight.
So I want to get this right for our listening audience.
Sure.
Your rationalization to not bring a gift was that you had to spend money to go across the country, possibly stay in a hotel.
That I didn't have. The money I didn't have.
Okay, money you didn't have. And that you were going to make darn sure their wedding reception was a success.
Yes.
Is that it?
Think of Wedding Crashers without the overt sexuality of it. And that was me. I wanted to be the bigger than life person who every aunt, uncle, grandma, niece, nephew was like, who is this guy?
And would you have danced with the aunt, uncle, niece,
I danced
and
with
nephew?
everybody's
Oh,
aunts and
okay.
uncles and nieces and nephews.
Okay.
My goal was to make sure that I left an indelible mark of remembrance about that wedding, even if it had nothing to do with the bride or groom.
Okay. Well, there you go. How does that feel today? Can you still
That feels
rationalize
great.
that? Okay, great.
I don't remember the first time I actually bought somebody a wedding gift, and I'm sure it was on a registry.
Right.
I can promise you it wasn't the expensive thing. It was like, hey, here's some fondue forks for $25. Sold.
So here's one of the things that's hard for me. Have I purchased off a registry? I have, for sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Does it bring me any satisfaction? None.
Of course not.
And what I weigh, and that bothers me, that it doesn't bring me satisfaction.
You want your personal satisfaction from the gifts that you're giving.
Right.
Which is kind of like me wanting the personal satisfaction of my presence being the present.
Right. So I've done it all. I've done things like, I don't know, contributed money because they wanted it for a trip somewhere. I've done all that kind of stuff. And that, even the contributing money, I know a lot of people really hate that. But when you go, oh, I'm going to buy dinner in Bellagio for them on the third night of their honeymoon, that kind of feels okay to me. It's so specific, right?
Do you think that they'll remember that, or they just know that it was paid for and so they're good?
What I would hope is that, what am I going to say? In tune, insightful, sensitive people that night would at least toast the people that purchased their dinner and, toast the people that purchased their boat ride over to Bellagio. I would think that would be so cute along the way. I know that's what I would have done through the whole trip.
So without anybody ever acknowledging to you, short of writing a thank you letter, you would hope that in this moment, whether it was zip lining or jet skiing or having a meal, that they would say, thank you, Debsy.
Here's to the Zeners. Do you know what I mean? Thank you for this experience.
Let me tell you a story about one of the first weddings I ever went to, and then you tell me how you would have handled it, okay?
Okay.
Now, the overlay on all of this is up until, 2 months ago, I was poor, super duper poor. This podcast has made me insanely rich. Okay.
Really? You're
we
not
are
sharing.
worth millions because of this podcast. So again, I was traveling back east. It was one of the first weddings I went to post-college. I was in the wedding, and I think I got there on a Wednesday. And so there was a bunch of, this might have been the first time that all of us post-college had really been in a group together. And so we were all around each other for the first time in probably a year or two. I got there on a Wednesday. We did the rehearsal stuff. We did the after dinner rehearsal stuff. I think we had an early bachelor party because all of us were going to be in the same place. So everybody, whether you were a part of the wedding, whether you were an usher, whether you were just a friend, we were all there. Okay. Now I hadn't bought a gift, was never going to plan on buying a gift. Didn't know still to this day how I paid for that weekend. I just know that I did. Okay. So the wedding was on a Saturday. We're in, I don't know, the green room. What do they call the space where you're just kind of sitting, waiting?
I think that's on TV, but yeah.
Maybe it was a very posh wedding.
Yeah.
We were just in that staging area, and it was all the groomsmen, some of the ushers. And then one of the guys that I've known for a long time, and I would say he's more of an acquaintance than a friend, brings out, and the groom's not there yet, brings out a gaming console, a brand new gaming console. This thing's like $500.
And how old are you then?
Early 20s.
Okay.
And he says to everybody, hey, so this is what we're getting him. So everybody in the room understands, and they're all like shaking their heads. And I'm kind of looking around the room saying to myself, wait, this is what we're getting him? This is the first I've ever heard of this. No, nobody had mentioned anything to me.
Okay.
And so he goes around.
It's also not a wedding gift. It's a gift for the groom.
True.
Right.
But he kind of goes around the room and he's like, everybody, this is what it's going to cost. And I think everybody has to give 50, 60, 70 bucks, something like that. A ton of money to me at the time.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know about this. Nobody has made any mention to it to me at all over the course of the week. So then he looks at me, and the groom is like in the hallway with his dad, ready to walk back in. He goes, hey, do you want to be a part of this?
That's when he asks?
Yes. And I, of course, say, well, Kevin, are you going to be the one guy in this room who doesn't contribute to it? And then the one part of me, and this is all happening like warp speed in my brain, well, it'd be funny if I don't contribute to it to then have him list out everybody and say, and not Kevin gave you this gift.
And you will do anything for a weird laugh.
True.
Yeah.
But I say, yeah, of course, sure, whatever. happily. So then they give the gift, right? And again, I'm kind of just sitting dumbfounded, a little stunned that this entire week went by without anybody saying, hey, by the way, on the day of the wedding, we've all pitched in to give him this gaming console. I still don't know that I would have felt good about it, but a 24-hour heads up would have been better than a 30-second heads up.
It would have been not only nice, but proper.
I proceed, after the wedding's over, weeks after, I proceed to get emails from this guy
About
asking for the money. I've never spoken to this guy since. I've just ghosted him entirely because I felt so offended that he would, A, not tell me that they bought this gift, B, ask me on the day within the minute of giving the gift if I wanted to contribute, and then hounding me for money afterwards. So this is kind of an impromptu, Dear Deb, what would you do in that situation?
That's tough. Okay, question number 1.
Yeah.
Are you the guy clearly doesn't listen to our podcast.
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, I get paid millions of dollars for this podcast. You're going to get there eventually. I have no idea.
Does the groom?
Probably.
Okay. So now the groom knows who he is. If he listens to this.
Maybe.
And he knows his friend that probably initiated this.
Yeah.
game.
I mean, I try to keep it as vague as possible. If this story relates to anybody, they're going to very clearly know who I'm talking about.
Okay. So there's a piece of me.
And by the way, I don't judge anybody but this singular guy.
Right.
Nobody else felt the need to tell me about it. That's fine. He's the one that brought the gift. I certainly don't feel the need
Did you say grift?
Well, the grift and the gift. And then I certainly don't feel the need to chastise the groom. He had nothing to do with it. I just have an issue with this singular dude. And clearly I'm over it 10 to 15 years later.
Yeah, because that's why we're talking about it here. So let me say this. I think the only mistake you made, I think this guy was totally wrong. And I think this happens in weddings all the time where, some maid of honor or bridesmaid gets so carried away and the other people that have agreed to be bridesmaids never intended to spend thousands of dollars attending somebody's wedding, right? And I think that has gotten completely out of line and there are a million stories where communication has gone wrong. So first, I put all the responsibility on him for not communicating it to you earlier, right? Because
totally.
Was it a good gift if everybody wasn't going to participate, right? I mean, because if you don't do it, then all the other guys have to pay more.
Totally.
But at the point that he said, "Are you in?" which I do want to say, oh my gosh, what do you say? But I am going to revert to, I think the truth helps. And what you could have said was, hey, we're going to have to talk. I mean, this is the first I'm hearing of this, right? I mean, you could have said that, though. I'm going to say you're 23 or whatever you are. And, it didn't occur to you.
I cannot emphasize how quickly the turnaround from, do you want to be a part of this, to handing the gift over was. Okay. It was seconds.
So I do think, though, that maybe could have been a titch better, that part of it. And then the other part of it, I think, is on the email, and this is just your maturity at that age. I know that for sure.
Sure.
Is you should have answered it and said, I'm not paying you, and here's why. I think you should have owned your behavior.
So ultimately, what I'm hearing is that I did the exact right thing given the circumstances.
I don't think I said it like that.
If we decipher what we want from what you just said, it sounds like I was put in an unwinnable situation. And for my immaturity, lack of funds, and being, having my moment hijacked by somebody trying to steal money from me at the last second, I did all that I could with the stupidity that was my early 20s.
That's you've layered a lot over that, Kev, because there's a piece of me that wants to say, if we really want to clear this up, reach out to the guy and offer him the money because now you can't afford it.
Never in a million years.
Okay,
Let's start the podcast.
Welcome to the Deb and Kev podcast. One is a Harvard Business School alum. The other is her son, discussing business, pop culture, family, and everything in between. Now, here are your hosts, Deb and Kev.
Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to the Deb and Kev podcast. Sitting right there is the godfather herself on this, the day of a daughter's wedding. It's my mom, Deb.
I'm Deb.
And if she's Michael, and I'm pretty sure that makes me Fredo, I'm her son, Kev, and this is our podcast. On today's show, Deb is going to put on her best lawyer outfit, and she's going to talk to us about the fun and exciting world of non-compete clauses in employee contracts. We're actually rebranding an old segment to bring it back this week. It used to be called The Best Things We Saw on the Internet This Week, and instead we're just calling it Good Job, Internet.
Okay, I like that.
And as always, we'll tell you what we're thankful for and what we'll be racking our brains about to eat for dinner tonight. But first, when this podcast comes out, it's going to be March 1st. March 1st marks 12 months that we have been dealing with quarantine, pandemic, and all this stuff. You are going to get your second shot this week.
Yes.
You have trips planned this week.
Yes.
So rather than just talking about the last 12 months, because everybody has their own story and it's pretty much the same thing, we sit at home and buy things off of Amazon. You're going to enter the world again, a different world than how you left it. Are you excited? Are you nervous? Is there a piece of you that thinks you're going to be able to conquer it because you have this shot? What are all the feelings going through your brain? Because I cannot fathom that it's been a year. It has felt like a lifetime. And then when I think about a year, I think, oh my gosh, this went by so fast.
So am I excited for the idea of getting out and seeing other people? Of course, the answer to that is yes.
Yes.
100%. Am I excited about getting on a plane? It's a firm no. I mean, wearing a mask for, 9 hours or whatever it is.
Which is interesting because 12 months ago, one of the greatest joys of Deb's life was stepping onto a plane.
I liked it. I liked flying. I liked traveling. I felt like I had also, and people that travel a lot will understand this, if you don't travel a lot, then travel can feel like, you can be excited to be going to the place you are, but travel itself can feel like, TSA, luggage, the airplane, all of that.
Yep.
But I had gotten past all that. I'd done it so much. I had my own little routine. I could, entertain myself. If a plane was late, I didn't care as long as I could make the connecting flight.
Right.
I just had the right frame of mind. Well, when you don't travel, all that is washed away. And
It's
you're
true.
back at beginning. Now, add to that, there are no treats or snacks on the plane.
Oh, that's right. They're not handing that stuff out anymore.
Add to that, they might give you 1 cup of water or something, or I don't know what they give you. Add to that, you've got to wear a mask, which makes me want to take a whole bag of food because you can take the mask off as long as you're eating, which then they're going to roll me off the plane instead of just, let's be honest.
Just bring those seaweed snacks. 0 calories.
Oh my God. But those have a smell.
Oh,
Can you
they
imagine?
do.
Oh
They
my gosh.
sure do.
People would die. So it's up, and you and I, because we work out of the house, and the only time we wear masks is if we go to the grocery store or go out somewhere,
Right.
which honestly isn't very often. And we all say, we say constantly, you and I, oh my God, aren't you glad you don't have to wear these all the time?
Yeah.
So our heart is with all of our listeners that are wearing these all the time.
Yep.
Now, it's probably mostly the mask, and I'm going to say the lack of service that you would get that now makes that plane ride almost unbearable.
Almost like a bus.
Almost like a bus. Yes, Kev, that's exactly right. So in the big picture, am I excited? Yes, because it exemplifies freedom, right? As I've said this, now I'm 1 step close to Paris if they would let me in, right?
True. But you're a dirty American, right?
But I'm a dirty American, exactly. So, yes. And does it feel like with the shots, you have a little bit more freedom? Yes. But I'm still an advocate of masks and sanitizer and social distancing and all of that.
Yep.
However, I have to say that getting there might kill me.
Like you said, we have not had to wear masks for long periods of times. It's 10 to 15 minutes a pop, right? When we're in a store, that's it. I think I passed out the last time I wore a mask for a really long time, which is on one of these episodes that you can go reference. So the idea of putting on the mask the second you step out of the car to get to the airport, having the mask on the entirety of the airport, having the mask on the entirety of the plane, having the mask on the entirety of being in the airport again. If you're getting an Uber, having the mask on for the entirety of the Uber. If you're staying in a hotel, having the mask on the entirety of the hotel. And then you're dealing with clients, so you will be in their office spaces, and it's entirely up to the individual whether or not they decide they want to keep their mask on or off. You're okay because you have the shot. That's
a lot.
6 hours of wearing the mask. And again, we're not complaining about that. I don't think you're complaining about it because you have the green light to go kind of live your quote unquote normal life again. But it certainly changes an element of life that you loved by constraining it.
Exactly. And I was really fortunate that I flew American Airlines, and I was like Platinum Plus or whatever it was.
Humble brag.
But not 9 times out of 10, I was upgraded to first class. And it was just so nice to get there and be treated like that, and, you know, have a warm little thing of nuts and a Diet Coke, and, you know, just, it was nice.
Right.
And yeah, like that's all gone.
Gone.
I mean, I get a big seat, I guess, if I get upgraded, right?
I wonder, I mean, because a lot of the stuff on American especially, it's like touchscreen stuff, and there's...
Oh, I know. It's like, well, the whole video thing is, you know,
So I wonder if that'll change.
I don't know.
So would you say that you're more nervous or excited? Because there's a piece of me that, listen, I'm a social person. I love being around my friends. I love going out and doing things. I'm not a huge crowds guy to begin with, but I certainly understand the merits of going to experience stuff like that. There's a piece of me that's gotten really comfortable with this quote unquote bubble that I've lived in.
Yeah.
And to where if tomorrow somebody said, we're open, I might be like one of those captive animals that is in the back of their cage, and they open it to go out to the wild, and they have to coax it back out. Because while I, of course, want to get back to normal civility, I, at the same time, have grown really accustomed to this new world. And so you're going to enter it with a bang in the form of travel.
So I don't have nervousness. I'm going to say that. Okay, unless that my nervousness would be that somewhere between here and Dallas, I rip my mask off because I've gone Looney Tunes with it on, right? And then...
We'd be like a lot of other middle-aged white women.
Yeah, but I would just be sobbing, begging people to let me breathe without it. Please, just let me breathe for a minute. But we've already solved that because we know I'm going to take a whole tote of food, right? To help myself. Even
if you're just sitting there with your hand in the bag for like 20 minutes, just kind of looking around so your mask doesn't have to be on, it's worth the prop.
It's worth the prop for sure. Nervousness, no. I have a teeny bit of dread about the restrictions. And then mostly I'm excited to see the people.
The restrictions being the stuff we've talked about?
Yeah, exactly.
There is something to be said for... I mean, I'm sure airports are operating the exact same way the rest of the world is, right? It's masks, it's heavy cleaning, social distancing. How you do that in an airport, I have no earthly idea. But it will be fun to kind of see it from the inside. And there's people who are listening to this podcast who have been traveling normally for the last 6 months, being like, what are your issues?
Right.
Well, we've had nowhere to go. So our issues are we've been domesticated wild animals, and now the zoo is saying, hey, buddy, you're healthy enough to get back out there.
Yeah.
You still have it all in you. Go.
Yeah. We're taking the fences down.
Yeah.
So what is that thing called?
Dish soap.
No. The thing when you're afraid to leave your house.
Spelunking. You're agoraphobic.
Agoraphobic? Is that
agoraphobia.
What it is? So I have thought many times this year that, we have isolated ourselves. And you and I specifically talked, I think we talked on the podcast, and we've certainly talked in the kitchen or the car about how we've settled into it, and we don't hate it or dread it, and we're comfortable with it.
COVID is our kidnapper. We have Stockholm syndrome to COVID, and we're like, hey, if you don't want us to leave, we'll stay here.
Exactly. We are totally like that right now. So there's a piece of me that goes, what is the real estate between that place that you and I sit right now and agoraphobia? I think it's super small. Like somebody could have developed it during this year.
Sure. For us, it's probably less than for Dad, who leaves 20 times a day. For us, it's more, I could not leave this house for 3 or 4 days. I'm still showering. I'm still eating healthy. I'm changing my clothes. I'm doing my laundry.
We look like we look right now every day.
Totally.
Yeah.
But if I didn't leave, I wouldn't care. that turns into next on A&E's Hoarders, Buried Alive, right? That's what that eventually gives way to. So I think we're probably closer to agoraphobia than we've ever been, simply because of the situation life presented us with. But I have to believe the second you do your first round trip, the second you get that shot even, you're going to feel infinitely freer. And then I'm just going to treat you like the canary in the coal mine, which is you go, no, you go figure out all this stuff for me and then report back.
Yeah, nobody will ever go to Costco with me again. I mean, I'll have to do all the grocery shopping, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Or Dad, because somebody said to me recently, I want to come, I'd like to come visit you, but I'm very concerned about Gary. And I said, don't be concerned about Gary. I mean, Gary leaves this house a million times every day. Sometimes we know where he goes. Other times we wonder where he goes. We often make jokes about a second family.
Yeah.
I mean, Gary,
I can't wait to meet them one day.
Me too. Gary is out there living, and there's nothing we can do to stop him. So Gary's fine.
Yeah. I was curious because, I mean, again, it's almost dumbfounding that this has been a year, and credit to all those involved where we entered a quarantine, a national lockdown. And then less than a year later, we have vaccines that are allowing us to get out of that national lockdown and try to live our normal lives again. But it does feel like you're this pioneer of, I did all the things I needed to do. I got my shots and now I'm going to travel again. And you're just entering into this world of, you've only ever known quarantine through the lens of Nevada. That's it.
Yeah. And it might be entirely different somewhere else.
Exactly.
And it is. I mean,
for
more
sure.
than likely. Yeah.
Deb, we could go live a normal life in Florida right now.
Well, I was talking to some people in Indiana, and it sounds like they just have a plethora of vaccines for everybody. Like, it's just no big deal.
That's what they hand you in first class.
Yeah.
Do you need this vaccine?
They just, go down to the Walgreens or the Walmart or CVS, whatever it is, and they get their shot. Here, I mean, they're like gold.
Yeah.
I mean, you are literally looking. I mean, Dad is 67 and is in treatment, chemo. And so obviously his immune system is shot, right? And obviously clearly has an underlying disease. And we can't get him a shot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been impossible. So, and I know people will have suggestions. We've tried everything.
And I'm 36 and healthy and nobody's willing to give me a shot either.
That's true.
It's a rigged system.
It's a rigged system.
Okay, well, I just wanted to check in, see how you're doing with all that stuff.
Well, I do want to say something about what you said earlier. If we find out that Dad has a second family.
Yep.
I
didn't say the second family. You did.
That will be part 4.
Oh, hell yes.
Okay, number 1. Number 2, video will be involved. Between wanting to kill him and then realizing what great content that is for the podcast, he might be able to get away with it.
Well, here's what it's going to be. It's going to be part 4 of our podcast.
Yeah.
And then we're going to launch a joint podcast with the second family. And that's what it's going to be called.
There you go.
First and second.
First and second. Oh, what if they're older than we are, though?
I'll teach them.
Okay, there you go.
I'll teach them because I can promise you this will be number 1 on Spotify in a month.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, Deb, let's focus on non-compete contracts.
Yes.
NCCs, as us in the know call them. Tell me about the importance of them. Tell me why they exist. Tell me if they're really enforceable and all that goes into it. And I just want to emphasize again, we are not lawyers. At no point should you take what we say as gospel as it relates to this topic. This is Deb's opinion on it. And if you have an issue with a non-compete or you're trying to enforce a non-compete or a non-compete is being enforced on you, go seek legal counsel.
Go seek legal counsel and don't go to Esquire Google. It'll just make you crazy.
I don't even know what that is, but certainly don't do that.
Don't do it. So non-competes, people typically write them, meaning employers, for, I'm going to say, higher up jobs mostly. Do you know what I mean? For people that...
Meaning like if I'm a cashier at McDonald's, I'm not signing a non-compete to where I can't go work at Burger King.
Exactly.
Got
exactly. It. But a regional manager at a McDonald's might sign a non-compete, right? Because they have access to more information that might be considered proprietary. I don't really think that a regional manager that had been at McDonald's is going to persuade people to come to Burger King. I don't think
maybe
that's a
they know
thing.
it's in that secret sauce.
But they might know what's in that secret sauce. So in a lot of industries, people have you sign non-competes. the basic issue of a non-compete is I don't want you stealing my customers, right? And that's number one. And then really number two, is there some proprietary information that you have access to that you could take to a competitor that would really leverage, right? Everything. I mean, leverage and hurt that business that you're leaving, okay? So one of the biggest mistakes that employers make is they generalize non-competes, right? They're not specific about what they are. And that's when things get, if they do go to court, courts do not like these non-competes because are you really going to rule on the side of somebody like you never get to work in your industry again, right? I mean, that's crazy. Mostly with non-competes, if they're super, super strict, they buy somebody out. I mean, meaning like I've seen non-competes where the non-compete lasts for a year. That's fine. But we buy you out for a year, right? Do you mean like that's how it is? And so, you're not the person. They think a year is a long enough time for you not to be in the marketplace, right? At the same time, they have you, they've taken care of you, right? Okay, so no damage done anywhere. Fair enough. So where the non-competes really come into play, where they're kind of a problem, is when they're really, really, really very vague, or when they're really, really, really very broad. So if somebody said, if I were a dentist, right, an employee dentist of a dental practice, and let's say I were a pediatric dentist, and I mean, I had a following, like everybody loved me. I was amazing. There is good reason to believe that if I leave that and either go somewhere else or start my own practice, that all those people will follow me because they loved me so much, right? So what you can't do, an employer cannot stop clients from following somebody, but they certainly would hopefully prohibit the employee, in this case, that pediatric dentist, from soliciting people, right? So you can't reach out to them. There's no grabbing. There's no soliciting.
There's no personal phone calls. There's no emails. There's no texting. There's no showing up on their doorstep saying, hey, I'm leaving. Would love your business.
And probably in most cases, not even saying where you've gone. Right? Okay. Though, when you go to the new place often will put something in the newspaper, something we'd like to welcome.
Of course.
Dr. So-and-so. So then we're on iffy ground. Do you see how that is?
Yep.
But anyways, the right thing to do, I think the right thing to do is to sit down with the person and say, the person that you want to hire, and before you hire them, and knock it out and say, what do you think is reasonable? Is a 5-mile radius in our town reasonable? Certainly 5 miles in LA would be reasonable, right? Probably more like 3 miles, 2 or 3 miles, because, we go to our little kind of neighborhood area, if you will. So then it would say, of course, you can never take my patients with you.
Sure.
But if you want to go open your own place, it has to be 3 miles outside the circumference of our office, and you're not free to solicitate. So everybody just really clearly knows the rules, I think the problem comes when people just say, hey, will you sign this? You're excited about a new job because you are excited. You've kind of been dating for a little while, right? And you sign it and nobody really pays close attention to it. And the person doesn't really know what they got into. And then when they really read the fine print, it says something like, you can't work in the United States of America.
Right.
Well, that's pretty broad.
Because nobody starts a job anticipating the end of it.
Exactly. And I mean, I have signed these and idiot could be stamped on my forehead. There is no question about it, simply because I trusted the person I was dealing with and I was excited for the adventure, if you will. Okay.
Yep.
But it really, as a rule, I'm going to say courts do not like these, and they don't like them because they're messy, and they don't like them because it can really hurt an individual. And they don't like them because they would like to protect proprietary information. But how do you unknow something?
Right.
And then how do you make sure that you don't incorporate that just in a simple conversation, right?
Totally, sure.
So we're seeing more and more states go to, they just want to uphold non-competes, right? So don't write them. I know California and North Dakota for sure are like, nope. So don't write them. It doesn't make any difference. And in California, a lot of what drew it was like the tech industry, right? I mean, you know, you learn a lot if you're at a startup. You learn a lot if you're a coder or a project manager. And now they're asking you to not take those skills that you learned somewhere, right?
Right.
And apply them to better yourself. So, you know, California, North Dakota for sure. There may be other states, but I know those two for sure. In Tennessee and Texas, this is very interesting. No competes will not hold for a physician. So they expect that physicians can go out and do their thing whenever,
Sure.
wherever.
Yep.
Okay, free to do it. And interestingly enough, in all 50 states, non-competes do not apply to attorneys.
Oh, weird. Funny how that works.
Funny how that works, right? So there are some areas where it really, you know, doesn't apply. I do think, you know, what ends up having to happen, like if a company says like, you can't take proprietary information with you, and maybe you were never, in some cases, there is no proprietary information.
Right.
Right. And in other cases, you didn't have access to proprietary information. So then it kind of becomes moot, right? There was a case I know about in Colorado where it was between two doctors and it was a patient thing. And the doctor was well loved. I mean, really, really, really well loved. And she sold her business to another guy and worked for him for a couple of years. And then their work relationship became untenable. I mean, it was fine that he bought it, but they were never going to work together. And so she went off to do her own thing. And her patients loved her. New guy, not so much.
Right.
And so over the years, she had given her cell phone to a ton of her patients. And patients started calling her, would you see me? Would you see me? Would you see me? And she did. Well, he tried to do it under it was a crazy thing, like non-competes. He tried to hit that. He tried to hit like there was secret information. Do you know what I mean? Like she knew she was, you know, she had learned something from him
Right.
that was proprietary. I mean, the thing went to court and she won because the truth of the matter is,
You can't prove any of that stuff.
well, and customers have the right to choose.
Right.
I have the right to Google that pediatric dentist and find out where she is now. And I have the right to leave the practice and drive the 3 miles to where she might be. And nobody can get after her for that, right?
Right.
So they do become very, very messy. Here's what I would say. No matter how much you're in love with the opportunity, no matter how much you're in love with, you know, the people that you've met and interviewed with, and probably maybe had dinner with and spent time with that, you know, if they ask you to sign a non-compete, take it to a lawyer. Make it really, really clear, you know, what your intentions are with it and what theirs are. Negotiate it up front. I mean, that's really what you need to do because you want it to be, it's kind of like a prenup, right? You want it to be clear at the end when everybody gets crazy, you know, when that employer thinks that everything they have is proprietary when in fact nothing is
Right.
proprietary. And when that lawyer, you know, I mean, it can also, here in Nevada, there was a situation where a woman worked for a casino and they said she couldn't work for any other casino. And I mean, that was like her business for 20 years.
Right.
That's what she knew. And it went to court and the court overturned the whole thing because they said basically the restrictions of the non-compete prohibited her from working.
Right.
I mean, at all, right? And that there were certainly enough jobs in a casino, and they actually referred to a janitor, but, you know, probably bad analogy, but, you know, where none of that would come into play. None of the things that the other casino was worried about would come into play. And so they've ruled for her. And they since then have been a little stricter, you know, about non-competes. So I genuinely think, I just think they're muddy water. And I think you have to be really careful and not fall just like a bride who's marrying a guy with, you know, $1 billion. I mean, if this thing all goes wrong in 3 years, hammer it out now rather than then.
True.
Right.
So what about like national ramifications? I mean, we live and work in a national professional landscape now where people are working remotely, people are traveling a lot. How is that instilled? Because you live in Nevada, you do business, well, all over the world, but also all over the United States. can it only be enforced where that company is domiciled, or can it be can they actually say in the continental or 50 United States, you cannot do business?
Well, they can say whatever they want, right? I mean, so somebody could say the entire United States, especially to somebody like me, that where if they would feel like I somehow had far-reaching effect, right? But that would be, I think that would be a really weak point, because you've basically, what am I now supposed to do at my age? Go be a waitress? No offense to all the waitresses out there. I love and respect you, but that's not my skill set, right? I mean,
that boot would be a pretty big inhibitor.
That boot would be a pretty big inhibitor. And so, though I do think I would be a fun waitress.
Of course.
But I mean, it's kind of like, come on, like I have, if I, with my age I always say I'm never going to retire, but if we just look at retirement statistics and I say I have 3 to 5 more years to work, are you really going to prohibit me from working any one of those years? Because if it were 5 years, 1 year, you're saying that I can't work 20% of the rest of my work life.
Right.
That's enormous.
Sure.
Right. So I do think that there are, things that you have to be smart about. I just think generally they're not a good idea. I think if a company has something really secretive going on, and companies do, I mean, research companies, probably even some tech companies.
Oh, sure. Big tech, all it is a secret.
Right. But look, in California, non-competes have been nixed, right? So I think the better thing to do is that you have, at the time that you're working on a project that is so specifically unique and maybe world-changing, that people, a non-compete or a non-disclosure would apply to that specific project. And that would be a thing that I think most people could get their heads around, right? That you're not taking that to a competitor.
Yeah.
When somebody else has done all the research and dumped millions of dollars in it. But even then, I mean, I don't know, like in the state of California, I don't know if that would work.
I was going to say, because I just don't understand how you could look at somebody, and even if they signed what would be believed to be the most ironclad non-compete, how you can stop somebody or prove or have any evidence that somebody was soliciting that work short, because you're just assuming that if this patient, who was a patient at this one pediatric dentist, is now over at this new pediatric dentist simply because this person works there, how can you draw a corollary or ever prove that, short of the person just leaving a horrible trail of solicitations?
Well, and that's the part I want to say that looks really bad. So let's change it from one person to 15 people, okay? So probably one person, everybody's just like, what you going to do, right? And in the case of pediatric dentistry, typically the new dentist is going to ask for the old records, right? Mm-hmm. So they are going to be able to follow the chain. It could be that owner then calls the doctor and says, hey, you're not supposed to solicit. And she said, hey, I haven't talked to them at all. They showed up in my chair, right? I mean, done. I mean, hopefully said and done, right? When the original business owner finds that 15 have gone, then I can see where that would become suspicious. But herein lies the problem. He can call the original dentist. He can accuse the original dentist of wanting to solicit people, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, and accuse her of that when, let's just say truthfully, innocently, those 15 followed her. And she says, listen, I haven't talked to them until they arrived in my chair. It had nothing to do with me. They saw this, they Googled me. I mean, they have just found me. They wanted me to treat their children. Now, the dentist that's left behind, the only recourse he has is to take his non-compete to a lawyer and try to enforce it in the court, right? Are you really going to subpoena every single one of those patients and their family?
I guess that's
because
my question.
Now they're going to hate you.
Right. My question is, how does the person who tries to really instill this non-compete, how do you not look like a total sociopath, thinking that if this one person who's industry specific goes and works in this other works in the same industry just for this other competitor. How are you so like narcissistic, sociopathic, psychopath that you think this person, even if it's 15, is going to single-handedly ruin your business? Because it's the same business.
But the truth of the matter is, in defense of the original employer, she probably had the ability to download all of her patients before she left.
Right.
And that's really what everybody's afraid of.
But even then, if that didn't happen, there is no smoking gun. You're hoping to what? Subpoena phone calls, emails?
Well, what it ends up happening is all these people are patients. Now, if I'm the patient and I love Dr. Susie over here.
Love
right?
Dr. Susie.
And and my kids love Dr. Susie.
Of course.
So taking them to the dentist is a dream, right? Because they love her so much. I mean, if I get subpoenaed because I left, by this original person, I am going to, that story is going to be told a million times. You can't stop it.
Right.
Court records for the most part are public. So not that anybody are going to be looking at court records, but now you have 15 people who are so annoyed with you, who are going to spread all this, I'm just going to say bad will, right? Not goodwill, so.
Because they left you already, which means they didn't really care about you in the first place. And now
they
what?
They cared about her.
Right. And now what? You're going to drag them kicking and screaming back to your business, a place they didn't want to be anyways?
Well, and even if a court ruled, which would be crazy, that even if a court ruled that she couldn't see those patients, do you think they're going to go back to that place?
Of course not.
Yeah. No, not after that. So I do think the constant, it's weighing and measuring, right? Do I want the bad press, even if it's 15 people, right?
Right.
But we know that spreads. Do I want to appear to be a reasonable human being? Does that matter to me, right? Do I, for some reason, have my emotions got out of control and I want to wreak havoc in the fires of hell on somebody for no good reason, right? So
we've all been there.
Right, we've all been there. Or is it just like it's annoying to me, but it's not really a legal issue? Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's emotional. And I think that's why the courts don't like it. It is definitely swampy water. It's not clear cut. And I think that's why we're seeing them go by the way.
Yeah, it seems really stupid on all accounts. And sure, if you're going to be the employer, try to, I guess, write as ironclad and non-compete as possible. If you're the employee, read that thing over with a fine-tooth comb, solicit a lawyer's opinion as well. And then just let the chips fall where they may.
Honestly, decide if it's worth it to sign it.
Right.
I think it's sort of like talking to somebody that's getting married. You could get divorced, right? Most people don't stay at a job for 30 years. So even if you're not going to stay at a job for 30 years, right?
True.
When you try to leave, are you comfortable with this upon the leaving? And, I said, I've been an idiot a couple times. Don't be an idiot, right? Be smart for yourself.
And don't think that other person has your best interest at heart if you're the employee.
Exactly. Because everybody in that moment is fending for themselves.
True. Wonderful. And again, we're not lawyers.
We're not lawyers.
Even if we were, we could go practice indiscriminately because non-competes don't apply to us, but we're not lawyers.
We're not lawyers.
So if you have your own legal issues as it relates to this topic, go talk to real lawyers.
Real lawyers. Because, and by the way, real lawyers, again, are not subject to non-competes.
True. Deb,
yes.
We have rebranded the very first rebrand on this podcast.
Okay.
We took the best thing that we saw on the internet this week. We're calling it Good Job Internet because this podcast typically skews positive. And in a world of chaos and where it's very easy to find just emotionally void, heavy, depressing, toxic stuff on the internet, we want to try to find the fun stuff.
Okay.
So in this new installment of Good Job Internet, it's going to be the exact same thing. We found a couple videos that we each like. We're going to explain them to you, and then we're going to put them on our social channels for all of you to enjoy. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
You go first.
So, without picking out any state in particular, the South was clearly hammered by terrible weather the last 10 days. Well, maybe the prior 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think too.
And they're still dealing with it.
Yeah.
And our hearts go out to them because as a area of the United States that should get pounded by snow and bad weather, we haven't had anything this year. So all of that stuff is skipping us and demolishing the people who don't know what to do with it, right? So we're not making fun of any particular state. We're not making fun of any particular people. The videos that have come out of the South with people trying to traverse ice and steps is hilarious. I don't have one particular video. Well, I have one in mind that I'll find. And it's everybody's got a Ring doorbell now, right?
Right.
And you see this couple leaving their front door, and it's the girl who goes first. And she's going to walk down those steps like she's walked down those steps every single day of her life. And I don't even think there might be some snow, but there's certainly nothing on the stairs. And she goes full-fledged, feet above her head.
Oh, no.
Down like the 4 or 5 steps. Then the boyfriend who's walking behind her, who's closing the door, sees this, and he goes to help her. Feet above his head, and they just are laying on the bottom of the steps, and they just kind of look at each other and laugh. And then there's another video with a woman. She's like, I think she's out in a cul-de-sac, and it is just black ice. You can't see it. It's asphalt. It's just black ice. And she is trying her best to stand herself upright. And I think she's wearing like pink leggings. And she stands herself upright. She feels good. She takes one step, bam, flat on her back. If you have not seen any of these videos of people in the South trying to traverse ice or snow, do it. It's like they're a different species.
It is remarkable to me how much we assume, how much the whole world knows about snow or snowy conditions just because we live in a snow-filled place.
Right.
I mean, like somebody said to me, I read this whole thing on Instagram. It was super funny about to all my friends in the South, like, make sure you let your water drip so your pipes don't freeze.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Just all these little, and I'm like, they don't know that? I mean, like, just like, I saw one girl, in fact, it's a girl I know, shout out Kate. She's driving down the street that we would love to be driving on if the street wasn't plowed, but it was fluffy, beautiful snow. You weren't going to go anywhere.
Right.
Like, we love that kind of stuff,
yeah.
Right? And she is in the car going, oh my God, can you believe this? This is so terrible. And I'm looking at this beautiful scene and knowing that her tires are grabbing on that snow, right? And thinking, Kate,
the issue comes when 50 cars have driven on that and they've compacted it, and now it's slick and it's turned into ice. That's the danger. Driving in fresh snow, you're good.
This isn't my thing, but I will say one of the funniest things I saw, and now I think they've lost their minds a little bit because they're going crazy. It looked like a mother and daughter that had been cooped up in a house with no water, no electricity, ended up getting to some family member's house who had water and electricity. They'd both taken showers, their hair was wet, and it occurred to them that this would be a fun thing to do because it was still so cold out. They went outside with their wet hair and they threw their heads over, you know how women will do that and throw their hair back, and it froze over.
Cool.
And so then when they went back, and we're talking, they both had long hair. Yeah. It's straight up. They did it over and over. They were tickled pink by it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and I looked at that honestly and went, yeah, I've lived in snow my whole life and never done that.
Nope.
Do you know what I mean? Didn't ever occur to me, right?
Drop it to a snow angel, come back inside, wait for it to melt.
Yeah. So my favorite,
yep.
This may not be meaningful to anybody else, but I love like little kid things that go wrong, just because they're little kids. I mean.
Oof, Deb, you like it when little kids hurt themselves? That's not great.
No, I don't want them to hurt themselves ever. But, something that would have been treacherous and deadly for an adult isn't for a little kid.
Oh, of course.
They're little soft noodles.
I'm pretty sure you can bend every leg and arm of a child in the complete wrong direction, and they're absolutely fine.
So this week, our friend Haley, who lives up in Montana, posted a picture of her daughter. And I think she's 3. Maybe, is she 4?
Posted a video of her daughter.
Who's, I think, 3. Now, here's what you need to know about Haley and her little girl. Haley is not in charge. Haley's the mom, but this little girl is large and in charge, right? I mean, Lila James is like, watch out in the best of ways. So it's the picture of Lila running from the house and across.
It's a video.
A video, thank you. Running across the whole yard. And you can see like the swing set. You don't know what she's going to do, but She's excited and running faster than fast. So what she does, which every kid in the world has done, they hit that, a sling swing. That's the sling shape. Hit it on their, lay on it on their
You're
stomach.
just referencing a normal swing.
normal
So don't try to
swing.
think of a sling swing. Think of a normal swing.
But it's not like a flat board. It's not a flat board swing.
Because we don't live in 1920s anymore.
Okay, some people have those, Kevin.
Yeah, maybe on their farm.
Okay, so anyways, she runs, and you know how a little kid will like throw their belly and then slide
Yeah,
forward?
Superman style.
So Lila does exactly that. On the front end, goes up in the air, and all of her flies off the swing flat on her front side.
She got a little taste of being Superman.
And the swing flew back.
Yeah.
Everybody's fine. Lila laughed. She didn't get upset, which is our biggest worry, is that Lila would, of course, blamed Haley. Do you know what I mean?
Well, she would have been right, too. Haley was clearly a bad parent filming it as opposed to helping her child.
I think it might have been Haley's husband that
Well,
filmed it.
we're going to call
Justin,
CPS
just
on
saying.
both of them now.
So it cracked me up because, number one, I knew her. Do you know what I mean? But number two, I love little kid things where it just goes wrong.
To be fair, you did see that on the internet. I was going to say, did you actually see that on the internet, or was it sent to you? You saw it on the internet.
I
So
saw it
this
on the internet.
applies.
Yeah, on Instagram.
One of the things that you and I talk about all the time that we'll never have any frame of reference for, we are totally void of, even though if you've listened to the 3 sagas of Deb's life, we have no idea what it means to have siblings.
Right.
We don't understand the dynamic. We don't understand the love. We don't understand the hate. We don't understand the competition. We have no frame of reference for that whatsoever.
True.
And there was a video that went viral this week. It's a little girl. I want to say she's probably 2 or 3. And she's wearing one of those Elsa from Frozen blue dresses. And she comes into frame, and it's the mom, I think, who's clearly just got the camera and just pointing down at her. Mm-hmm. And the girl is sobbing, and she's sobbing, and she's sobbing. And the mom's like, "What's wrong?" And she goes, he, referencing her brother who's off screen, he farted on me again. Like, again. And this is just, like, this little girl is so broken that her big brother has once again farted on her that she's just a puddle of tears.
Yeah.
And of course, to somebody like you and I, we're just like, that's hilarious. But this is going to be an issue for this little girl that her brother indiscriminately just put his butt on her and farted enough to where she worked herself up about it, and it happened more than once. It's the best glimpse into a world that we will never know.
There's a therapist waiting to hear this story.
I hope there's a therapist who specializes in brother farts.
Brother farts. Yep. Yep. No, we don't know that.
Nope.
We're not good at that. We we laugh at that. I think little kids crying over crazy things are the funniest things in the world.
The best, because we don't have to see the therapy bills afterwards.
Exactly.
That's one of mine. I have one more. Do you have one more?
I don't, but go ahead. I might think of one.
She did not prepare for this segment at all.
Possibly.
My last one is, it's a young boy. I mean, he's got to be like 7 or 8 years old, and they're out on a field after some kind of sports competition. He's wearing like a yellow shirt, and he has this gift bag, and he hands it to his coach, and his coach is this really good looking black guy with like dreadlocks.
I'm dubsing on this one.
So this is mine.
I'm dubsing on this one.
What is
my
dubsing?
second one. Dubsing means I literally, when you first said something to me, I thought about that little boy and the coach. That's the first thing.
So you're trying to steal this.
I forgot it. And so now I'm dibsing on this one.
Oh, dibsing.
Dibsing on this one.
Dubsing.
Dibsing.
Debsing
Tomato,
on this
tomato.
one. Got
Yeah.
it. So this little boy hands his coach this gift, and the coach, again, this really cool younger black guy with dreadlocks.
Good looking. Yep.
And he hands him, it's like a Yeti or a knockoff Yeti, and it just says, thank you for being like the world's best coach or something like that. And then the mom says, he has something he would like to read to you too. And I'll probably tear up saying this. I don't remember everything that he says, but the little boy starts reading, and like he is so proud of what he wrote to this coach.
And didn't he look too little to be able to read and write that?
Totally.
I mean, I was shocked. Like, he's actually reading it. I mean, he looked little.
Yep. And so he's telling the coach, thank you for being the best coach in the world. I can't wait to go see your gym. You made me love football again. I can't thank you enough. And then he just gets a frog in his throat and he can't finish. Oh. And the coach just reaches out and bear hugs the kid, the likes of what you would hope anybody would do to any child ever. And it's like, oh, this is what emotion feels like as you're watching it. It is the purest joy from his just crying because he loves this guy who changed his life, and the coach being like, yep, and now here's my love to you. It is phenomenal. It is the grace of humanity personified in that video.
Well, of course, this kid will remember it because now it's
everywhere. Yeah.
But even without any video, that kid will remember that for the rest of his life. It'll be so meaningful. And that's really where you hope, like, that kid takes that and holds that precious event to his heart forever. Yep. And that's one of those, it's the best teaching moment the coach had.
Totally.
Yeah.
It was
amazing.
It was, I have goosebumps thinking about it. It was one of those things when you least expect it, and it sits with you for a really, really long time after. And kudos to that coach for being that type of figure in that kid's life, because he changed it forever.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I don't know, that good stuff, it does. I mean, I've watched it like 5 or 6 times. Just love it, you know?
Good job, Internet.
Good job, Internet.
All right, Deb, as we wind down, what are you thankful for this week?
Okay.
Oh, she's ready. She's got this one prepped.
Yes. So last week we listed my business pet peeves.
Oh, yeah.
And which might have been good or anticlimactic for anybody. I don't know, but they're mine. A lot of them have to do with service and the way you're treated.
Yeah, clearly.
So we went on a Diet Coke drive.
We did.
It was late in the day, so it had to be caffeine free.
Yep.
So the only place in town that has them are Five Guys.
Yep.
So we go into Five Guys, and we always resist.
Actually, it's only you that goes in. I stay in the car. You have this thing down to a science.
I have this thing down. So you go into Five Guys. There's no, at least in our Five Guys, there's no sitting. You have to leave. Yeah. You know, with all the tables are on top of each other and everything. And you go in and you buy your thing. And what they've done, it's because it's a self-help, you know, one of those.
It's one of those massive Coca-Cola machines that you can get literally any drink ever, and it's all touchscreen.
And all the flavors of anything, right? So they've put a table in front of it, and then a person helps you. I mean, they do your drink.
So they're the only one touching it.
Exactly. And they have gloves and masks, and they're great. And sometimes the person there is, I've never had a bad experience there, but, you know, sometimes they're just like, ho-hum. But, I mean, let's consider the job, right? Yep. I mean, the guy I get yesterday, I'm going to say he's 17 or 18.
I was going to say, calling him a guy is a little broad guy. He's a kid.
Yeah, he's a kid. I get yesterday. So he pulls out the 2 cups, and I did save a Five Guys cup here, but you took it away. And he said...
No, there's no free ads.
And
we make millions of dollars from our advertisers. You can't just pimp out Five Guys.
And he went like this. If this was a Five Guys
There you go. Raise that Deb and Kev mug.
He says, where would you like the ice? And he pointed to a couple of different places. And, you know, like a band of checkers. I said, oh, right there. Oh, my gosh, thanks for asking. Because I usually do tell them where.
Yep.
And he goes, sure. He said, I want you to have the drink you want, not the drink, you know, that I'm going to, you know, that I would want. And so he said, on both drinks, is that the good amount of ice? I said, yes. Then he filled it with ice and turned it and let me see the amount of ice and said, feel good about that? And I said, I do. Thank you so much. So then he made, because it's those machines where you push the button, lots of carbonation. So it feels like it's full, and then we have 3 more inches.
Right.
And we all hit that, like, you know, over and over.
It's like us filling up the gas tank.
So he did all of that. So it was completely full. He turned and looked at me and he said, I want you to make sure you're getting a full cup because you paid for a full cup. And I said, listen, you are making this experience incredible. I can't thank you enough. The customer service has been unbelievable. And he smiled. He said, well, thank you so much. He said, I just think everybody has their own opinion about how they want it. And the way I want to do it is the way you want it. And I'm like, I love you. I mean, you are my, like, I'm
Do you want to come on a
road.
podcast and talk?
So then he puts the lids on and he hands me the straws. I put the straws in. I pull the paper off the straws. He says, let me take that garbage from you. And I said, oh my God, thank you. And then at some point, I think when he filled the cups up and said, is that good amount? I said yes. And he held his fist out. We fist bumped together.
Love it.
He had a gloved hand, so we were good. And then I said to him, I don't know how long you've been here, and I don't know how long you're going to be here. But if you keep this up, someone is going to pluck you out of here faster than fast. I looked at him and I said, keep up the good work. And he was like, oh man, you just made my day. And there were some other people standing close by, and this woman, kind of looked at me and with a big smile and, nodded. And it was just, as you know, by the time I got to the car, it was the highlight of my day.
Sure.
I don't know his name. I am grateful for that kid at Five Guys that filled our drink cups.
Yep. Yeah, you were very, very excited when you got back in the car about that.
Which is a lesson to everybody that provides customer service. That didn't take very much. It was less than a 2 or 3 minute interaction, and it made my day. It made me feel good. It doesn't take a lot.
Good. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Especially on the heels of pet peeves of customer service.
Exactly.
The world looked at you and said, today, you're worthy of good customer service, Deborah.
That's exactly right.
And you received it. Mine was just the last chapter of the Debs saga was this beautiful culmination of a thing that we did. I was super stoked to be able to have Dondra on to give her part of it. I was really happy that the technology piece of it worked. I was so happy about the outpouring of appreciation that you received from it. It just kind of puts into context all of this stuff that I probably take for granted in the realm of you, because I just know you as my mom. And so all of these things make sense to me. It would make sense that you would reach out to Dondra. It would make sense that you would want to give her the gift of having her friend know that she was, in fact, her family. But then I forget that that's not how everybody operates. And when you do something very cool like that and other people see it or hear about it for the first time, I think they're dumbfounded, because you typically only see stories like that on ABC News or Ellen or something else. You don't really get to meet people who do stuff like that. So I'm thankful that I have a mom that's willing to do great things like that, because I can certainly forget about them and just say, well, that's Deb being Deb. But when you see it through the eyes of other people, you're like, oh, it's actually more profound than I give it credit for.
Well, that's super, super sweet. I only see it through my eyes. It felt like the right thing to do. I know that, I got Dondra and I texted afterwards, and she was very happy with the outcome. I do know that it was Karina's birthday this week, and I thought about her on her birthday. Because,
happy birthday, Karina.
Happy
Belated.
birthday, Karina, because I thought, I hope she listens to the podcast. And I don't know where she is or what she's doing, but it could be that she listened to the podcast 3 months from now. I don't know,
sure.
Right? But it does feel good to have it out there. And here's one of the things that I think this whole saga did for me is, times are different today. I mean, if a girl gets pregnant today, there's not the shame and grief.
Right.
Her family doesn't usually hide her, right?
Right.
And very quickly, even if it's an unplanned pregnancy, we can get to be really excited about it. I mean, very instantaneously,
Yep.
And so, but that's not how it was when I was growing up, So these things about, what my last name was and was it really real? Probably not. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like, my mom wasn't ever really married. I mean, I was born out of wedlock, if you will. I mean, and then just finding, let's be truthful. My dad didn't really want to know me. Do you know what I mean? Like, all those different things. And, even with my mom having the other child, maybe if I were young and knew that, there could have been some shame I felt. I'm just saying via my mom, about being part of that, but I didn't know it when I was little, so
right.
That didn't happen. But I don't think that I possessed, when we started this, a lot of shame about any of this. I think I had accepted it as my life and my story, and I was comfortable telling it. But I had a little, and I think I even said this on the podcast, I just didn't want people to think different of me,
right.
In a bad way,
Yep.
Right? I didn't want there to be any judgment on it, because I just felt like this could help somebody somewhere, right? And the Dondra Karina part of it, part 3, is like
it's manna from heaven.
It is. It just, there is now no question in my mind, and there honestly isn't anything anybody could say about me or my crazy family that would bother me. It just doesn't matter. It's all good now for me.
Good, as it should be. Because we all judge you just for being who you are, not your family.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Deb, as we wind down, what is for dinner this evening as you look at me dumbfounded as if you didn't know this question was coming for the 58th time.
It's the only thing that I've been really worried about the whole podcast.
Really?
Yeah, because...
Good, because I wasn't worried about it at all.
You weren't?
Nope.
Are you cooking tonight?
Nope. Dun, dun, dun.
What are we going to have for
I
dinner?
don't know. It's on you. This is the first time we're coming to the table without anything
I have
prepared.
to plan something for dinner. Okay.
So it better be good.
I think, you know what I've been craving lately?
Oh, what?
I'm not going to make this, but I need to find something like it. I think, that chili, miso, noodle, chicken.
Ramen?
Yeah, that thing. I've been craving that. But I think tonight I'm going to make that thing that you said I can't eat for a whole dinner.
Oh, the sauce? The dip?
It's not a sauce. It's not a dip.
You literally referred to it as a dip.
I used the wrong words.
Explain it.
It's cooked in a cast iron skillet.
Got it.
It's like 2 packages of riced cauliflower.
Okay.
But first you brown ground beef first.
Okay.
Throw in onions, throw in jalapenos, throw in bell peppers, whatever you want, all diced up kind of small, right? Then you throw in the riced cauliflower.
Okay.
So now we've got a thing going, right?
Super healthy thus far.
Super healthy thus far. Then you throw in a little bit, I don't remember how much, of cream cheese.
Okay.
And that's just to kind of bind it all.
We've deviated from health, but we're still kind of occupying it.
We're still in keto land.
Yep,
though,
very much so.
and gluten-free land, right?
Yep.
And then you take that and you take the Mexi cheese that everybody, whatever the blend is.
Got it. We're getting a little more center from health.
And you sprinkle it on the top and you bake it in the oven. And you can either, this is what it said, you could spoon it in and fill a tortilla. In our case, it would be a corn tortilla.
I don't think I'd like the texture of that.
No, I think it would be good.
It's
I think
mush.
No, it's not.
There's no crunchy
There's
element.
going to be some crunch in it.
How? Where?
I think I'm not going to add the jalapenos till the end.
Oh, so the super hot thing is going to be the crunchy element? Awesome.
I think it's going to be good, Kev.
Oh, I have no doubt that it's going to be good. I just don't know how you take that because
does it make you feel better with a dip on a corn chip?
Wait, yeah, because that's
Okay.
what dips are. They're made for chips.
Well, that's not how it was served when I saw it on the internet.
What psycho eats salsa or French onion dip with a spoon?
So let's just do this. Let's just really put a nice plate full of it. We're going to refer to it as the mixture, not the dip.
Okay, yeah, let's get that dip going.
The mixture in a bowl. And then I'm going to do some cute gluten-free tortilla chips around the edge. And you can use your spoon to put it on a chip.
Everybody just close your eyes. Everybody, if you're at home, just close your eyes. If you're on the road, just close them temporarily. Okay, you'll get through this traffic. Think of a bowl filled to the brim with hot, cheesy, meaty, gooey food. And surrounding it is tortilla chips. I know this is going to be hard for you to think about because you've probably never experienced something like this before. Would we call that a dip?
Mixture.
Or would we call that dinner?
Oh my gosh.
Pretty sure we call that a dip. But hey, I'm excited for dinner dip tonight.
Okay, dinner dip.
Dinner dip is going to be the best. Anything else, Deborah?
I can't think of anything. I feel like this was a good. I had a good time.
I was worried about this podcast, and
I was too.
Here we are.
I was in a little bit of a mood, and I came out of it just fine. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to explain, by all means, but we're running short on time.
No, I'm good.
Remember to like, rate, and review wherever you listen to this podcast, and make sure you follow us on all of our social channels. You can watch us on our YouTube channel. This thing will be up on Tuesday. Mom, I love you to death.
I love you.
We'll see you guys on Thursday.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Deb and Kev podcast. Remember to like and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. Follow Deb and Kev on Facebook and on Instagram and Twitter at Deb and Kev Pod.